Today, we're diving into something pretty mind-bending, a concept whispered about in some, well, interesting circles, the final understanding. It's talked about like it's humanity's last big secret, a hidden truth that changes, well, everything, if it gets out. But what is it, actually?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Okay.
Because the term itself is kind of slippery. Depends who you ask. For some people, the final understanding is basically the revelation that life,
Yeah.
it's all a simulation.
Okay, like we're in the Matrix or something.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the idea is, if you really grasp that, truly understand it, well, maybe the program just ends. Game over.
Right.
And this viewpoint, it sometimes suggests that big physics breakthroughs, quantum mechanics, maybe they bump up against this truth. And that's why they sometimes get weirdly quiet receptions.
Huh. So our best science can be poking the edges of the simulation, and maybe there's a risk of, like, crashing the system if we go too far. Wild. But that's just one flavor of this idea, right?
Oh yeah, definitely not the only one. Another big one is that the final understanding is actually suppressed proof. Proof that humanity didn't just evolve randomly, that we were maybe created or managed. Some even say farmed by some kind of advanced extraterrestrial intelligence.
Farmed! Wow, okay, so where does that idea come from?
Well, proponents look at things like, ancient structures built with impossible accuracy, all the persistent UFO stuff, abduction stories. They argue these aren't separate weird things, but clues. Hints that Earth, well, maybe it's never really been ours alone. The big secret would be admitting we have cosmic landlords, basically.
Okay, so option 1, simulation. Option 2, alien overlords. Doesn't sound like there's a cheerful option 3 coming up.
Yeah, no. The third one is often seen as the darkest, the cosmic horror version. This one suggests the final understanding isn't about who made us, but about the universe itself. That it's fundamentally hostile, or that best indifferent to life. That consciousness, our awareness, is just a fluke, a tragic accident.
And knowing that is the final understanding.
Knowing it and truly accepting it. The fear is that this realization would just braid us, lead to total nihilism, the collapse of meaning, motivation, everything. It's knowledge that's toxic to our way of being.
Yeah, you can definitely see why that kind of truth, if it were true, would be something someone might want to keep quiet. And that brings us to the conspiracy angle, doesn't it? The whole idea that, governments, secret groups, they know this stuff and are actively hiding it.
Exactly. That's the core of the theory as a conspiracy.
Yeah.
That there's a cover-up. And our mission today, for you listening, is to really unpack all these threads.
Right, so where did this phrase even come from, the final understanding? It sounds kind of dramatic.
It does. And its origins are, well, a bit murky. People trace it back to obscure occult writings, late 19th century stuff. Some link it to, like, secret Masonic texts or maybe mistranslated Eastern mystical ideas. Hard to pin down definitively.
What did it mean back then?
In its earliest forms, it was described in really evocative ways, like the revelation of what is beyond revelation, or the end of questions, the end of search, the knowing that unravels all knowing. Very grand.
Wow. Okay, heavy stuff. And then it somehow got tangled up with, like, Cold War spies. That seems like a leap.
It does, but there are these persistent rumors, stories about, say, a Soviet psych program, specifically aimed at preventing people from reaching this final insight. Like they were scared of what would happen. And then you look at CIA stuff like Incultra, experimenting with consciousness.
Right, mind control and all that.
Yeah, but the conspiracy views, it wasn't just about control in the usual sense. It was fear. Fear that messing with minds could accidentally unlock this final understanding. And that would be catastrophic for social order on both sides.
Okay, so if this thing is real and powerful people are supposedly terrified of it, why hasn't it leaked? Why don't we know? That's the big question, isn't it? Which leads to this idea of a suppression machine.
Crucial point, yeah. Believers argue there's a system in place to keep the lid on. One part is what they call censored science. The claim is that certain research papers, especially in really fundamental physics, cosmology, if they get too close to suggesting reality is weird in the wrong way, they get buried. Labeled errors, funding cut, that kind of thing.
So inconvenient truths just disappear from the scientific record.
That's the claim. And it's not just science labs. There's also talk of mystic silencing.
What does that involve?
It's the idea that this suppression extends to spiritual leaders, gurus, maybe philosophers, anyone who might stumble onto this truth through introspection or, mystical experience. Whistleblowers, or people who claim to be, say, these figures get discredited, their group's infiltrated, and maybe they just vanish. The goal is to control all paths to this knowledge.
That's pretty dark, controlling science and spirituality. And then there's the weirdest part, Maybe. The media control idea, like with movies.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. The suggestion is that films like The Matrix or maybe Dark City, they aren't just entertainment. They're sort of controlled leaks, giving us hints of the truth, the simulation idea or whatever, but packaging it as fiction. So it inoculates us, maybe, makes the real thing seem less credible if it ever came out.
Wow. So entertainment as a form of reality management, that's unsettling. It paints a picture of us being like subtly steered by unseen forces.
It definitely adds a layer of paranoia, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But okay, for any conspiracy, you need some kind of proof, right? Or at least anomalies that believers point to.
Right, the breadcrumbs. What are they for the final understanding?
Well, one category is really poignant, the children who know too much. These are stories, anecdotes mostly, of very young kids. Kids who apparently say things like they understand the game or describe life as an illusion, sometimes with startling clarity. And then usually they just grow out of it, lose that perspective.
Like they arrive with some kind of default knowledge that gets overwritten.
Something like that. It's as if they see through the veil for a bit before, the filters of society and growing up kick in. Then you have accounts from the psychonauts, people using psychedelics.
Ah, right. Journeys into the mind.
Exactly. And some report experiences where they feel like they've glimpsed the actual structure of reality, seen behind the curtain. And sometimes they report hearing voices or getting a strong feeling, telling them essentially, stop looking, don't go further, like there's a boundary.
A built-in warning system for reality.
That's crazy.
It makes you wonder if there's a line we're not supposed to cross. And then the really concerning ones, the disappearing researchers.
Yeah, these are the stories that sound more like thrillers. Physicists, mathematicians, people working on really radical edge-of-knowledge theories, and then they suddenly go silent, or vanish, or die in ways that seem suspicious. Coincidence? Maybe. But for believers, it's evidence of hitting that boundary too hard.
You can see how these stories would fuel the theory. But okay, let's bring in the other side, the skeptics. How do they explain all this?
Well, there are several strong counterarguments. One is just basic philosophical projection. The idea that humans are fundamentally storytellers. We crave meaning, we look for patterns. So creating a narrative about a final truth is just what we do. It's like ancient myths or religious prophecies, just updated.
So it's more about our psychology than about reality itself.
That's the argument. It taps into that deep human need for answers, for a grand explanation, which ties into the next point, cognitive limits. Maybe the final understanding isn't a hidden secret, but just a metaphor for the fact that our brains, our understandings simply have limits. There are things we just can't know, not because someone's hiding them, but because we're not equipped to grasp them.
So it's acknowledging mystery, but without the conspiracy part.
Exactly. And then there's cultural recycling. The idea that none of these concepts, simulation, aliens, cosmic dread, are actually new. They're ancient fears and myths just dressed up in modern sci-fi language. Alien overlords are just gods or demons with spaceships, Simulation theory is just a high-tech version of older philosophical doubts about reality.
Okay, that makes sense too. Recycling old anxieties.
Yeah, and skeptics argue the whole conspiracy persists because it's a potent mix. It combines our fear of, death and meaninglessness with the lure of secret, powerful knowledge. It's kind of compelling, even if it's just a story.
It really is. And what's interesting too is the effect it has on people who do believe it. It seems to go one of two ways.
Right. For some, it's terrifying. It leads to this deep existential dread. If nothing's real, or if we're just cosmic accidents, then what's the point? It can be paralyzing.
But for others, it's freeing.
Bizarrely, yes. For some, it's liberation. If life is an illusion or controlled, then things like suffering, fear, social hierarchies, they're part of the illusion too. So understanding that might let you theoretically transcend them, or at least not be so bothered by them. It's this strange duality, total doom or total freedom, that makes it really sticky, especially online.
That duality is fascinating. Doom and liberation wrapped in one idea. So where does the theory stand now? Is there a sense that we're getting closer?
Well, that's the final piece, the shadow of disclosure. Many believers feel we're right on the edge. They look at things like AI becoming super intelligent, advances in quantum physics, biotech. They see us building the tools to potentially hack reality's code.
So technology might force the issue.
That's the idea. It's not just philosophy anymore. It's becoming potentially testable, or at least we're creating things that might accidentally stumble upon it. And the prediction or the fear isn't a slow reveal. It's a moment of rupture.
A sudden break.
Yeah. One big discovery, one experiment, one AI reaching a certain point, and boom, the truth is out, all at once. That's what the supposed suppressors fear most, the theory goes. Not gradual understanding, but sudden global shock. And the belief is society just wouldn't handle it. It would break.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all mean for us thinking about this today? We've gone through quite a journey here into the final understanding.
It leaves us with some heavy questions, doesn't it? If this ultimate truth exists, whatever it is,
Right.
what do we even do with that possibility? Do we chase it? Risk everything, our sanity, our society, for the final answer? Or do we maybe accept that some knowledge might just be too much for us, too destabilizing?
Maybe the real conspiracy, the real question isn't if it exists, but if we're actually ready for it. If we can handle it. Because history kind of shows us, doesn't it? Forbidden truths, big secrets, they tend to find a way out eventually. And when they do, they don't just change what we know, they change us. So the question for you listening is, if you could know the final understanding, truly know it, would you want to?